Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology.
Welcome everybody to the 95th episode of the Blacks in Technology Bit Tech Talk podcast. I'm your host, Greg Greenlee. It is Saturday, May 21st, and we are live at the Detroit Self Conference here in Detroit, Michigan. So this is a podcast show where we talk to people of color who are engineers, innovators, educators, inventors, entrepreneurs doing amazing things in the world of technology. This podcast is where they share their stories, experiences, ideas, and perspective on tech with the Bit community. If this is your first time checking us out, you can follow us at the following URLs. We're at www.blacksandtechnology.net. We are also on Twitter, and that's at Black and Technology, BLKINTECHNOLOGY. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Blacks and Technology. And we also have a LinkedIn group. Just search for Blacks and Technology. You'll find us there. If you're checking us out on Twitter right now, if you have any questions for our guests, tweet them using the hashtag BitTechTalk, BITTECHTALK. So Blacks in Technology, we're a tech-focused community and media organization. We're focused on increasing diversity in technology through increased visibility and participation of people of color in technology. We're always focused on forming new partnerships and opportunities to assist our members with their continued professional growth and development. So if you want to partner with us, send us an email to partnerships@blacksandtechnology.net. Any general inquiries related to sponsorships, you can send those to contact us at blacksandtechnology.net. Like I said, we are live here at the Self Conference in Detroit. We had an amazing meetup last night. And tonight we are joined, or today I should say, we are joined by Marlin Page, founder of Sisters Code. So I want to welcome Marlin on the show.
Thanks you. Thanks for having me.
on.
I appreciate it.
Real quick, I do want to mention our startup of the week for Blacks in Technology is DOS. DOSS. They're disrupting the real estate industry with artificial intelligence. I can't speak today. They're an artificial intelligence powered real estate advisor. So you can check them out at askdos.com. That's ASKDOSS.com. All right, so we're going to get into Q&A with Marlin. Again,
all right.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
So let's start with, we're going to start in the past and kind of work our way up to what you're doing now. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, your education.
All right, so born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I have to give a shout out to Cass Technical High School.
Okay.
I know. People who are Detroit will know it's like this big rivalry thing. But Cass Technical High School, best high school in the city. From there, I had a few different stints in college, trying to find myself and figure out who I wanted to be.
All right.
So my first year of college, I attended Florida A&M University.
Okay.
Way too much partying, had to come home. So Wayne State University is where I received my degree.
Okay.
And my degree was in public relations, but I also studied to become a mortician.
A mortician?
A mortician. So
Okay.
mortuary science. And so when I left college, I actually worked at a couple funeral homes.
This is a first on our podcast. This is the first mortician on a podcast.
That was
It's a
my
milestone.
interest. It was my interest.
Let me check that off the list.
I know.
Mortician, check.
I know. Both my parents are ministers. And so, younger, you go to funerals and then you're like, I need to understand more than what you all are talking about. Why do they look like this? What are you talking about? And I just became interested at a young age.
That's
and
pretty
so,
interesting.
I know, right?
A little creepy, but interesting.
So I, after college, I worked as a substitute teacher, middle school. And like I said, I worked at the funeral home in the evening and at night. Did a little bit of everything there. And then someone told me about a company, it was in the suburbs called CompuWorks Corporation.
Okay.
And they had just started a boot camp where you can learn to code in 7 languages in 13 weeks.
Wow.
Now, I had no idea what coding was, had gone to a great high school, graduated from college. I don't know.
Right.
I can't say or blame anyone and say no one introduced it. It just wasn't, I wasn't listening out for it.
Right.
So I decided to go to CompuWare to work, not because I love to code, because I didn't know what it was, but they offered benefits and more money.
Okay.
Honestly. So I went and fell in love with it. And I was only going to stay for the summer.
All right.
And I ended up staying 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Back to the and I don't mean to keep bringing this up, but you mentioned that you worked as a mortician in the evening. Is that kind of like, because you remember that movie Night Shift? Mm-hmm. You remember that? It was always like at night. Like, is that how it operates, or is there daytime hours too?
There's daytime hours. Funeral home is 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So was that your first introduction to technology? Was working there?
My first introduction to technology, or even thinking about becoming a coder, was at CompuWare Corporation. I had no idea what any of these languages were. But what I loved about that program was that they had a belief that if you had a degree, that you could learn to code. And it was a brother, African American male, in this company who came up with this idea, and they let him fly with it.
Nice. So what was the first language that you learned?
JCL, job card language. So mainframe. I'm a mainframer. I'm a real programmer.
Right. Okay.
So mainframe. So
right.
JCL, COBOL, CICS was my favorite. IMS, IMSDB.
Wow.
Yeah, DB2 was great.
Okay.
So yeah.
A lot of stuff for financial institutions.
Yes.
Utilize mainframes.
I did a lot with the banking industry and a lot with automotives.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us, what was the first program you coded? Do you remember that?
Oh my God. I'm sure
was it Hello World like it's normally for
It wasn't Hello World.
Okay.
And I believe it was a COBOL program. And I can't remember what we made it do.
But it was in COBOL.
But it was I had a whole bunch of bugs. And back then, you didn't have like all this software where you can find the bug. You had to read through your code, which was beautiful.
Right.
And you had to find that there was a period that was out of place 20 hours later. Right.
Right. Interesting. So from mortician to COBOL.
Yeah.
I like that. So, and then to Deputy Chief Information Officer for the city of Detroit. Tell us about that experience. Like, how did you get the job? How did you move up the ranks?
Yeah. So when I was at CompuWare, I started, like I said, as a coder. Mm-hmm. And the CEO, I have to say, he was phenomenal because he just gave me multiple opportunities to grow in the company.
Okay.
So I became a coder. I worked on a lot of great projects. And then I became the person who would train the people coming in the program. So I actually teach them how to code. Then we didn't have an organizational development department in the company. So a lot of succession planning, leadership development. So they allowed me to go back to school to get my master's and specializing in that. And so I created their OD department and just did a lot of great things with CompuWare. And I quit actually to take another job. And then they decided they were going to move to downtown Detroit.
Okay.
So understand that there was a lack of diversity in my company. Of course, it's technology.
Right.
But they're moving to Detroit where everyone looks like us.
Right.
You know, so my CEO, I love him, pretty much told me that I wasn't leaving. He had pretty much contacted the people I was going to work for to let them know.
Sabotage.
But he was the man. He's awesome. I'm glad he didn't. So he allowed me to create the first diversity and inclusion initiative in their 30-year history.
Oh, wow.
So to get people acclimated to coming downtown. And it was interesting because people had questions like, well, what if my car breaks down on the freeway? Will someone carjack me? Right. So
wow.
I know, but I have the temperament to understand that it's not, they don't mean it in a horrible way. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So it was things like that to get people acclimated to coming downtown to the city of Detroit. What does that look like? But also to say to our company, there needs to be a shift here. We don't have enough people of color in different places, and we don't have enough women. And so I did that I got them downtown. I stayed for a year. And then I pretty much was on loan to the city of Detroit to serve as their deputy CIO because the Super Bowl was coming to town.
Okay. Well, what does that mean by on loan?
Well, I was on loan because I quit again. I quit again, but it was okay because I was going right down the street to assist the city with this major undertaking, which my former company was also going to be sponsoring.
Gotcha.
And they just needed someone to come in to coordinate the technology piece behind what was going to happen with the Super Bowl. But it was also they needed someone with the HR background too, because you think about it, you have thousands and thousands upon thousands of employees, and you got unions.
Right.
And you just needed everybody to come together and talk and work together so that all the technology we needed worked on that day, so we would not look horrible in the face of the country on Super Bowl.
That's a pretty huge undertaking.
It was amazing. I loved it.
Really?
Yeah.
So you relish in these intense...
I do, because, I am Detroit. And so, like I said, I grew up here. I've been here from birth to now, outside of going away to college. And so it's a win for us. Another thing, when I was there was a huge win, is that we didn't have e-government was non-existent. So our taxpayers couldn't pay their property taxes online. And we had people in place who actually said pretty much that we weren't savvy enough to go online and pay taxes, and we wouldn't want to. But you had homeowners who were losing their homes because they didn't have the cash to go pay their property taxes. Now, people in the suburbs had this opportunity, but we didn't. So we were able to put into place an option. Yeah, your property taxes are stupid, ridiculous, but at least if you have a credit card, you can at least have the option to do it. So just things like that. Those are the things I relish in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this role as CIO, did you have any mentors or anything like that? And what role did they play if you did?
I definitely had mentors. For example, my past CEO, his name was Peter Kermanos. Excellent. I could definitely, if I needed something, I could, of course, contact him.
Right.
There's another lady named Denise Knobloch, who is interesting now. She left CompuWare, and she's actually Chief Human Resource Officer at the city now. Amazing person. And I would also say Omari Bayi, and this is the gentleman who actually started that program where I learned to code.
Okay.
And when I gave a shout out to Cass earlier, I will say to you, when I got to that interview, I believe I was horrible. He pretty much told me I was horrible. But he saw something in me, and he was also a former Cass Tech grad. That was 20 years before me, but it was just that connection. So he gave me an opportunity, which changed my life.
That's amazing. That's pretty cool. So, kind of just to play devil's advocate, why do you spend your time doing things for girls and women in technology?
Well, I would have to say it's my story. My life is great. It is really good. And I can't say it's because of technology, but I will say technology has provided many options.
Right.
And so because I just happened to find out at the age of 25, it's kind of like, what if I didn't? What would I be doing? Being a mortician is great, but I'm glad I'm doing something else.
Right.
So I am really, really passionate about empowering these girls and women to, let's talk about women first. Women to know that it's never too late, or you're not too old to try something different.
Right.
And especially as women, we are every woman. I'm a mom, we're wives, we're mothers, we're sisters, we're caretakers. And so sometimes we get stuck and we don't know that we can just go out, try something, and it could change the trajectory of your life. So for the young girls, what I find is with them, especially when I do Microsoft DigiGirls Camp, a lot of these girls are this is self-esteem. They don't have self-esteem, not in coding, it's just in life.
Yeah.
There is just a lot going on with these young girls.
Yeah.
And so if I can just get in there, it's really interesting because for many of them, they don't expect to see a me show up.
Right.
Energetic, just there, African American. And not all of the audience is African American. It's just for some reason they just kind of take to the story.
Right.
And we do a lot of exercises with them around empowerment, and I just kind of sneak coding in it.
I like that.
Yeah.
So tell us about Awakening the Mature Geek.
Yeah. So Awakening the Mature Geek is, once again, for these older women.
Nice.
I'll give you an example. For in our first Sisters Code class, we had a lady named Rose Jones, Miss Jones, 62 years old.
Okay.
62. She is now a TA for our class.
Nice.
She had retired, but she didn't want to retire. It was one of those things where it was just her job and she needed to retire. She is now an entrepreneur developing basic websites for churches.
Okay.
And it's amazing. She is just like a little fireball.
Nice.
She really is. So when we talk about the mature geek, we get women spanning the ages, 25 and I mean older, that are coming in there. And like I said, I was talking to the class this morning. Some of them will walk out of there and love it, and some of them will hate it.
All right.
Whatever. That's fine.
It's all about the exposure.
It's
giving
about
them
the
an option.
exposure. You will never look at a website the same.
Right.
You know, we're teaching them small little increments, but we're showing them what it looks like, why this is doing that. They will never look at it the same. So that's why
Nice.
we call it the mature geek.
Okay. So what do you think kind of convinces them to kind of give this a try? Because it's, I mean, if you know, I've had instances where I ran into people and they talk about how they were thinking about getting into tech, and then something happened that kind of intimidated them. For instance, I always talk about my wife's cousin who told me that he went to a school called Walnut Hills, which is like one of the best schools in the nation. I think it's ranked up there. And he told me about a story about one time he was thinking about technology, and he walked into the class at his school. He signed up, and he said he went in there, and everybody kind of turned around. He was the only person of color, and looked at him, and instantly he didn't feel like he belonged. Now, ideally, should that matter? No, but we know that it does. So, what do you think? You know, he ended up walking away and not going into tech. But what do you think? Kind of, you know, the people. What type of effect do you think that they are having in order for them to be convinced to go into tech?
I think like some of the things what you're doing here is really important, so that they understand, that they know, you know, kind of pointing people in this direction, so that
Gotcha.
they see people who look like them.
Right.
So no, should it matter? Of course not. And for some of us, we don't care. You know, you look
Right.
at me, I'm gonna look right back at you and sit down in the front of the room.
Right.
But for some people, it matters, right? Especially our younger people. And so they have to see more people who look like us. They have to know, like I said, when I walk into the room with these girls, they can touch it, feel it, see it. I'm not this person that they see on TV or this stereotype.
Right.
You know, you can touch me and feel this is who I am. You know,
Right.
I bring all this, and technology is what I do too. So exposure is huge. And unfortunately, well, let's just say fortunately, I think that we're getting to the place where we're offering more exposure to people of color.
Right.
For these opportunities. They have to see people. It's just like if you work for an organization, when you think about diversity and inclusion, you know, when you go to an organization, you want to see other people who look like you. You want to see where they're going so you can see if you can get there.
Right.
It's the same thing with technology. We act like it's something different. It's not.
Right. Right. And just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, I was having a talk with Damien, who I met here at the Self Conference last night, and we were talking about coming in as you, and letting that be kind of a representation of you know, what they can be in tech, and how important that is, because, you know, kids, they get, you know, they see what they see on TV, and they have a hard, you know, if they've never seen it or been, you know, they have a hard time relating that. So, and not only that, just being yourself and going in and letting them see, like, okay, this is the way I dress, this is the way I am, this is my humor, these are some of my interests. You know, those are some of the things that they can actually have that may be in common with you, that makes it that much easier to, you know, relate, and then say, okay, yeah, I can jump into tech too. So it's great. Yeah. So let's talk about Sisters Code. Tell us, you know, how you came up with the idea, what it is, why the need to start it.
Yeah. So Sisters Code was founded September 2013. I was a speaker at Techonomy.
Okay.
And it was Techonomy Detroit, and I was on a panel called Education 2.0 for Americans 2.0. And they were just talking about how we have to reinvent education, especially technology-based education. And I promise you, on that stage is when Sisters Code became a thing. It just came out of my mouth, and I said, I am starting this organization called Sisters Code, and we're going to help women learn how to code and empower them. And when I left the stage, I had an influx of people who were asking what it was,
right.
Could they help? It was interesting. We had some of our people from the governor's office was there. Now, it was so funny, and so they were like, "What can we do?" And I'm like, "I'm going to get back with you," because at that point it really was just an idea.
Wow.
But then after that, it just took legs. And so Sisters Code, it was just, I really think it was divine intervention. I don't think anything happens by mistake.
Right.
I think just all the pieces came together. I mean, because you think about it, the domain name wasn't gone, the business name wasn't gone. It was like it was just there waiting for me
right.
to speak it into existence. And so it was founded that day. And I will tell you, right after that, about a month later, Microsoft joined in as a partner.
Nice.
And I mean, amazing. They helped me to write the curriculum.
Nice.
One of this brilliant man, Stacy Harris, was one of the first instructors. They opened up their Southfield Tech Center to us.
Okay.
And so we had our first 2 classes there. They invited these women in. It was amazing.
Nice.
So to have a Microsoft behind you to push
Right.
you off.
Right. Everybody knows Microsoft.
Yeah, so it was a pretty big deal. And so since then, we have flourished. And now the class today is at Henry Ford Health Systems.
Okay.
They've become a great partner. They just let us go in and take over the building, and we use their technology. And, so people have been really kind
Nice.
to us.
Sometimes you just have to speak things into existence.
You do.
You just say, hey, I'm doing this, and then fill in the gaps later.
Right, you don't have to know. Sometimes we feel like we have to know every little thing.
Right.
Yeah, I don't work that way.
So did any of your previous roles kind of play a part in you founding Sisters Code?
Yep. Like I said, I don't think anything happens by mistake. When I think about it now, I'm like, whoever would have thought I would go to CompuWare and stay? Like, I was going
right.
because I needed this check. I needed a check. I needed benefits. I was going to go do something else. And so I know that first opportunity to learn to code was pivotal in everything that I do. I know that role was important because I would be lying if I sat here and told you it was just a breeze and it was easy.
Yeah.
No, every day I was quitting. Okay, once a week at least. I would go in because my program would work. We're there at night. I can't figure it out. And every day I was like, okay, today is my last day. I'm not going to do this. And so that just gave me the fortitude to say, okay. So when I work with women now, I'm like, yeah, it can be tough. It can be difficult. It's the unknown.
Right.
But I did it, and my degree is not in this thing
right.
here, and some of you don't have a degree, and that's okay too. There are a lot of people who don't,
yes.
and they're doing fine in it.
Yes.
And I don't think I would be able to talk to it as passionately as I am if I had lived it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was actually talking to Damien again last night, and he's a iOS developer he's from here. He moved out to San Diego, and then he came back. But he said he had no degrees, or he just, he was working as a desktop support person, self-taught, and he was, I guess, helping out a developer with their system. And then he just happened to ask an HR person, like, hey, how much are these people making? And he was like, oh, yeah, that's double what I'm making. It's time to be a developer. And we were talking about, like, yeah, there's really a low barrier to entry to tech. Like, you can teach yourself. I'm primarily self-taught. I did go back and get my degree. I didn't need it at the time.
Right.
I was already well within my career. But I try to tell family members, friends, you can pick up a book, start tinkering around, learn.
All these online courses now.
Online
Yeah.
communities like Blacks in Technology, you can come and get resources from.
That's right.
Utilize the collective intelligence of everybody there.
Yeah.
And you can do it.
We have no excuse.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the curriculum. What's the curriculum like?
So, so let me just set up the class for you.
Okay.
So the women come in and we send them a pre-email to just tell them, listen, you're coming to this class. We want you to let your hair down. All you have to do is bring your purse if you want to.
Okay.
We have everything for you. And we did that on purpose. So we have computers for you. The software is here. No hardware needed. There's nothing that you need. And I did that because, not to belittle any other programs, but I'm really, really keen on this whole digital divide or whatever we want to call it. But it is real, especially in some of our communities. And so I didn't want to provide an excuse for someone or assume that everyone has a laptop. So I can't say, show up with your Mac. Because then there is a barrier to you coming.
Exactly.
So now we make sure that wherever we're going to have these classes, everything you need from a technology standpoint is there.
Nice.
So they get there, so they don't have to worry about that. Our instructor, Vershima Flood, is amazing. She's been with AT&T for 17 years. She's my sorority sister.
Okay.
And she just went on. She came along on this journey with me. And she's just phenomenal. And she is a techie, a true techie.
Okay.
And so when they get there, she's playing jazz or some music. So it's kind of like a little party atmosphere. The women come in, they get to know one another. So by this time, we're kind of like fostering a sisterhood. And so the first thing that we ease them into is CSS and HTML.
Okay.
Now we know that's not true coding. They don't know. But we know it's not really. But you have to start them somewhere. And it's easy. You can see things happening. And so it's kind of like, let's lull you into this. And then we hit them with some JavaScript. We hit them with some JavaScript like the second half of the first day, and then that's the full day for the next day. And by the end of it, they have created something. And they are so excited. They are high-fiving. They are dancing. It's interesting to see because some of them learn faster than the others. And although we have a TA there, we watch, and I think it's just because we're women and we're nurturers and we're going to help. You see another woman get up and help the other lady over there, so she's learning too. And okay, let's look at your code and see what's going on and what's wrong. And so it is it's a place of fun. I call it like a coding party. And then after that, we're able to say, is this something else, something that you want to do later, or you want to explore more? And we're able to offer them more resources if that's something they want to do.
So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, any back-end stuff like databases or anything? That's it right there.
That
and how long is the?
It is 2 days. It's
a
weekend website warrior. And it's funny because at first I was like, about a year ago, I am fighting. I'm doing a boot camp. It's going to be 13 weeks. And we're going to save the world. And you know what? It's like you have to stop and listen. And it's like, okay, God, you're not telling me to do that. I'm being extra competitive. Other people are doing it. And I'm like, I can do it too. But that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. What Sisters Code is supposed to do is to expose people. It's the first step. So I had to get real humble and quiet. And so this 2-day really helps to get these women to understand that you can do this. And if you want to do more with this, then we can help you do more with it. It's not just 13-week program though that I thought.
But it's igniting the spark. It's igniting that spark and that curiosity. A lot of times that's, what I find is it's that initial exposure, right? Like we have to at least present them an option of technology, right? So, you hear about people saying, I was talking to some people last night about this, I'm sick of people going into entertainment and basketball. It's like, let's not focus on that. Right? Like, let them that's their brand. Entertainment, basketball, whatever, that's a brand for them. Let them have it. If that's something that they want to partake in, fine. But our brand, is tech. Let's push that as hard as they push that brand, and let's give them an option. And then if they like tech, they can couple that with
whatever
everything else. And they bring that, so they can define themselves and what an engineer looks like. So I agree with
you 100%.
Yeah, definitely. So how do you I guess so it's a 2-day program. So how do you or do you measure success? Is it like at the end of it they have a website built?
Yeah, so at the end of it, they have a website built, and that's, of course, they feel successful.
Right.
Of course, we have our survey and everything like that. The way I measure success, though, is the number of people who are still connected to us, and not even how they're connected to us, but we have I have quite hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women who in a community now. So we build a community,
right?
And it's their little private community. And so it's interesting because they're talking back and forth like, hey, I'm about to go on an interview for this entry-level tech something. Can you all give me some input? What do you think? Or I am developing this thing. Can somebody help me and look at my code?
Right.
Or one thing that we did, I wanted to create a space for these women, like how can we give back? Okay. So I've had just only one cohort so far that worked with an entrepreneur. And this entrepreneur had to be in the inner city because our downtown businesses get a lot of love already, which is great, not hating on that. But in the neighborhood, you got the barbershop, you have the grocery store. A lot of them are owned by African Americans. Unfortunately, some of them don't have a web presence, so they're missing out on commerce. They're missing out just economically, period. Because when people come to town, they're Googling, you don't show up, you're just nowhere. I don't know where to call you or anything. And so I had people, small businesses, to submit just this application, ask us some questions about their business. And so there are sister coders who would get together and actually help them to build a basic website from what they learned. And so those are ways I measure success because they're still reaching out, they're giving back, and they're learning and they're doing. And I had a Zumba instructor who is now... She is doing some type of database work at one of our healthcare industries. She left us, and of course, she had to go to a boot camp, but we were able to assist her with getting there. Okay. And she graduated, and now she's in tech.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
So, how do young women sign up for the program? Is there like a vetting process that takes place?
No. Okay, well, there is a little survey. So our thing is this: you don't need experience. If you come to our class with a whole bunch of experience, you'll probably be bored. You'll have fun and meet a lot of good people.
Right.
So we tell people if you can follow a recipe, you probably can do this. But do you know what a can you open a browser? Do you just small things? Can you save a file?
Right.
So we ask them like little questions or things you can do. If they're able to do those small things, then they can come to the class. Okay. And you need to be at least 25. This weekend, I felt so horrible, but one of my sorority sisters signed up for the course, and luckily she called me to say, oh, it's for my daughter. Well, her daughter is 16. So I had to refund her money because, the class is for the mature geek.
Gotcha.
And as women, who knows what we talk about in class. And so... I can't be responsible for your child and what we say. So that is a prerequisite. We just ask people, and I don't look at birth certificates and anything, but we just say we're looking for 25 and older. Right.
But I mean, that's important because you'd be amazed at the number of people, especially within the African American community, who are like, I don't even touch tech. And it's just like, you don't know how to get on the computer and Google? No. It's like, wow. Okay. Let's bring you to the 20th century, and then to the 21st century.
But you mentioned that, and are you familiar with an organization called Yes We Code?
Yes. Yep.
So,
Dan Jones and
so they asked Sisters Code to help them. They had their first hackathon here last year. Okay. And so we, Sisters Code, helped the kids. Anyway, there was one Detroit team in particular. So they had teams from the suburbs and everything. Right. And, of course, I'm like, I'm going to gravitate to these kids. Interestingly, you get them in a room and they're just kind of talking, as middle schoolers do. Mm-hmm. But then it hit me because some of them were kind of like off doing their own thing or not paying attention. And I'm like, oh, my God. I don't know that they know what coding is. I don't know that they understand. Mm-hmm. And not saying that these other schools did or did not. I don't know. But you could just tell by their faces, you're here to compete in a hackathon. Mm-hmm. And has anybody explained to you really what that is? Right. I'm like, okay, so we need to start there. because there was a lady from the Detroit Public Schools Foundation. She actually said to me, she said, well, why do you think people come to our schools and they want to put on these coding camps, but then they come and then they don't come back because sometimes they say our kids aren't getting it.
Right.
Which I wish your viewers could see my face right now. That's crazy. But
right. Our kids aren't getting it. Right.
They aren't getting it, but it's how we talk about
right.
it. And it's not that they're dumb or anything, but sometimes as techies, we talk way up here because sometimes we want to sound important and we want to say all these big words. These are children.
I do that sometimes.
So stop it. So, but when you're able to have them pull out their phone and say, okay, you all have Angry Birds and this bird failed because there was some code written and this is why. And they're like,
right.
oh, well, that's what it is. Yes, this code makes this thing do this. And then they get it. Because one young girl said, they're just smarter than us. And I'm like, okay, baby, no. Nobody's coding today. We're going to sit down and talk. Because that's not true. No one's smarter than you. Now you know a little bit more. We're about to go out here and compete and win.
Nice.
We didn't win, but we competed. But we're going to compete.
Sometimes that's just as important. Yeah, I mean.
So, yeah.
I mean, that's a big issue in our communities anyhow, is the exposure and so and not even that, so it's that plus, right? So it's exposure and then having resources beyond that. So if someone is curious, if they're like, okay, like I'm looking into tech, do they have the resources available to them to kind of pique their curiosity, so they can take that even further, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why Blacks in Technology exists is because I wanted the community as a resource. So it's not just people out there, not knowing what to do, and they can have a place to come so that they can have people to talk to and say, hey, I'm trying to do this. Every day in our forums, on our Slack channel, there are people, hey, my resume, I can't get a job. Can anyone take a look at my resume and tell me why? And then most likely somebody will take a look at it. And it's the same thing with our youth. They might have an interest, but they don't know where the next steps to go from there. And then if they do, they might not have the resources to take those next steps.
That's
so
right.
It's also, it's providing the awareness, and then it's providing the resources on top of that. So you have other projects, an ebook, song,
I do.
accessories.
I know.
Tell us about some. I mean, what prompted you to do that as well?
Well, I wrote.
You're starting to sound like me, where I'm doing everything.
I know. I wrote a book, and my daughter, a beautiful daughter, she's 17, and she was in middle school, but she's really tall. So probably, I want to say like maybe 6th grade. This book has been out for a while. 6th grade. Mm-hmm. She probably was about 5'5", 5'6", wears a size 10 shoe.
What grade?
6th grade. But I was the same way. I mean, she has sister locks, and she went to a school, the Roper schools, out in the suburbs, and so there aren't many African Americans. Mm-hmm. But I love the school. I love what they stood for. All her friends loved her. It was, but I could tell she came home one day and she's like, I'm tired of looking down at everybody because everybody's so short. And she wanted to take her locks out. It was just a thing.
She meant that literally.
Yeah, literally. She did. She wanted to take her locks out, and I'm like, okay, girl. But what I did know, because of just my own self-esteem issues back in the day, long time ago, the only way she would love herself was if she had to. There was nothing I could do, nothing I could say.
Right.
So, because I'm over the top, I wrote a book and put her face on the book. So I wrote a book, put her face on the book along with some other children, and it's just a book about empowerment, believing in yourself. So to go back, I had recorded a song that is on iTunes, and it's called Always Believe. And so I used the words of that song. The name of the book is Always Believe. I used the words of that song. I had one of my high school classmates, John Baker, who was an amazing artist, do all the art. And then it's like an 18-page workbook, so where the girls can write out their feelings or answer questions. And then I just stuck the CD in the back of the book and like a magnet they can put on their locker that says like, I believe in myself or I love me or something like that. It's this hardcover book. I self-published it, and my daughter did a book signing, which was so funny to me because I'm like, you didn't help, you didn't pay, you didn't write anything.
She took all the notoriety. Huh?
I look over, she has a pen, and she's signing books. I'm like, really? But it worked because she is one of the most confident people I know. This girl went from a class of 34 in her 8th grade. 8th grade was 34 kids. She came to me and said, I need to go to a school that's a depiction of the world. This is not it. So she went to my alma mater, Cass Tech, which is huge. She has 800 kids in her 9th grade class. Mm-hmm. So from 34 to 900. But she's now class president. She varsity volleyball. So you can't tell me that she's not confident anymore. That's why I wrote. That's the long story as to why this book became. That was it. It wasn't for profits or anything. It was just my baby needed something to motivate her.
Nice. So, I mean, how can people get the book?
Well, you can. The book is available at Amazon.com. Okay. And then the song is on iTunes or CD Baby. And it's called Always Believe.
Very nice, very nice. So, how can people follow or get in contact with Sisters Code?
Yep. So I have two websites. It's sisters-code.org. Okay. And or marlinpage.com. And if you go to marlinpage.com, you can get right to Sisters Code and vice versa. Okay. And on Twitter is Marlin Page or Sisters Code.
All right. And what's next for you? And what's next for Sisters Code?
Oh, well, Sisters Code, I believe that it's time for us to go national. We do have quite a few people who, and quite is an understatement, who want us to come to their location. So I am talking to some corporate partners to see how we can partner with them, because really it's just a space. You have the willing participants. So now it's just getting this exposure out to other places. But I don't want to rush it. I'm going to do everything in divine order. So I'm just kind of taking it step by step, listening and seeing where we're going to go from there.
Okay. All right. Last but not least, any parting words of wisdom for our audience?
Yes. If you have not delved into technology in some way, and something other than playing on your smartphone, I'm imploring you to please try some of these online sites. Blacks in Technology has a wealth of resources. So I would say, you know what? Instead of me giving you 1,000 websites, start there. Okay. Start there and kind of navigate your way around. Get the resources. Know that a career in technology or just knowing technology can really change the trajectory of your life. And I would just tell people to get out of their own ways and just try it at least.
Right. Well, definitely want to thank you for joining us on the show today. Definitely appreciate it. I want to offer, any assistance that we can offer if you or have any events coming up.
I'll call
Let us know.
I'm gonna contact you.
Shoot us an email.
Yeah.
And because I offer this to everybody who comes on the show because we want to be that platform where we're promoting what's going on within our community and great work being done by people in our community. And sometimes I don't hear anything back. I don't get any responses, and it's like, hey, this is a platform for us, so let's utilize it. So the offer's out there, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. You too.
In the future. All right. Excellent. So that's it for this episode of the Blacks in Technology Bit Tech Talk podcast. I want to thank our guest, Marlin Page, for joining us. If you like what you heard here, you want to let us know, you have any suggestions or comments, email them to us at contactus@blacksintechnology.net. Join us for our next podcast. We're going to have Scott Hanselman on the show. Not this Thursday, that got canceled. Scott had something to do with the White House or something. I don't know. But we're rescheduling that, and we'll have information out on the website. So check us out, and stay in tune for that. And remember, tech yourself before you wreck yourself. Take care and have a good night.
Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.